A chilling digital query just linked Savannah Guthrie's massive paycheck straight to Nancy Guthrie's front door. Federal agents just ripped a massive clue straight out of the prime suspect's digital footprint regarding Nancy's terrifying abduction. Stack this fresh evidence against the existing facts, and the underlying reason suddenly shifts from mere speculation to an absolute, undeniable certainty. The local sheriff held this crucial snapshot since the very beginning, confirming its existence on live television while deliberately keeping the public completely blind. This 84-year-old woman remains completely missing. A $1 million bounty remains untouched while the sole individual holding the truth stays completely mute. And their underlying motivation will completely shatter your perspective. 6 weeks feels like an eternity during abduction cases, especially since the initial 72 hours typically dictate the ultimate outcome. Those early moments determine investigative paths and rescue probabilities. Reaching week 6, lacking verified sightings, validated payoff exchanges, or basic survival, evidence forces detectives into entirely unfamiliar, highly concerning operational grounds. This realm isn't officially cold or shut down, but rather an environment demanding silent, heavily scientific, and incredibly methodical perseverance. During that exact 6th week, the Pima County Sheriff granted an exclusive network interview, delivering a statement that completely altered our entire perspective. Without a doubt, we suspect his exact reasoning and feel it was highly calculated. Though we aren't 100% certain, we strongly suspect his underlying motivation. The commanding officer declared. They felt confident the victim was explicitly chosen, while simultaneously warning viewers during the broadcast that the predator might definitely attack another target. Declaring an offense as deliberately focused sends a highly specific, chilling message to the community. Detectives suspect the prey was carefully handpicked, entirely unrelated to how easily someone could breach the property line. The assault had nothing to do with unlatched deadbolts, neighborhood convenience, or random chance. She was hunted. A specific trigger turned that exact residence and that particular lady into the ultimate bullseye. In police terminology, labeling an ongoing abduction as isolated and deliberate remains the absolute heaviest designation an official can reveal during press briefings. The commander refusing to declare the community secure just because this tragedy hit one specific high-profile household goes far beyond standard reassurance protocols. Standard warnings usually advise basic caution, but his grim underlying message carried unique weight. Never assume the attacker's criteria isolated only this household, because his distinct phrasing heavily suggests a broader selection process. This hidden criteria could surface again, proving the attacker's dark methodology remains entirely repeatable. This indicates a distinct rhythm the authorities recognize and desperately want to interrupt. Right before the chief dropped another massive bombshell that went virtually ignored, he remarked, "Since the very beginning, our team held firm convictions regarding the incident, and those early theories have never faded. Fresh clues didn't alter their trajectory, nor did any sudden breakthrough completely pivot their working hypothesis. These core theories emerged immediately at the initial site, well before extortion letters appeared, lab reports returned, or federal agencies officially entered the chaotic fray. These details essentially materialized right from the very start. I truly believe our initial strong hunches regarding the terrifying event haven't lost a single ounce of their credibility. A glaring detail among the initial clues instantly explained to detectives exactly why this particular matron became the tragic prey. Valid tactical protocols explicitly dictate why police departments actively conceal proven motives during ongoing criminal probes. Broadcasting the reason might alert the fugitive before tactical takedowns conclude, ultimately ruining the trial by allowing opposing lawyers ample time to craft deceptive rebuttals. Such leaks severely compromise active stakeouts. Furthermore, during highly delicate situations, revealing the driving force out loud practically serves as a direct announcement of the culprit's actual identity. Exposing targets instantly creates massive flight risks. The commanding officer remains tight-lipped out of strategy, not due to pure ignorance. He stays quiet because revealing his knowledge carries massive real-world tactical consequences. Every single profiler, former government operative, and seasoned reporter deeply analyzing the available clues inevitably arrives at the exact same chilling conclusion through reverse engineering. The catalyst directly ties into the victim's matriarchal status and the immense societal influence. alongside the staggering wealth that her famous bloodline ultimately commands. The shattered physical space screamed this narrative immediately, and responding detectives understood it perfectly. Their perspective hasn't shifted once over 6 weeks, notably on February 24th, 2026. Her desperate relatives posted a massive $1 million bounty for direct rescue intel. Our household is putting up a staggering $1 million for any verifiable tips pointing us in the right direction. That cash supplemented the $100,000 previously established by federal authorities, pushing the ultimate public bounty to an insane $1.1 million. Various media platforms published fluctuating final sums, mostly depending upon how they calculate outside community donations. However, reports never dropped below $1.1 million without question. This astronomical figure absolutely dominates the charts as the most lucrative private ransom fund attached to modern domestic disappearance mysteries. A massive bounty sits completely untouched. When a monumental payout like this hangs in the air for weeks without a single taker, veteran detectives know that absolute quiet speaks volumes to the investigation. Such massive cash effectively wipes out any public apathy. $1.1 million is life-changing cash for any bystander. A local who spotted something weird, a friend catching rumors, or a distant acquaintance. By the 6th week of the most heavily covered disappearance we have seen in ages, every single person orbiting this mystery has had the chance to see the cash, realize its worth, and speak up. The absolute lack of takers is a glaring red flag. Former federal agent Steve Moore took to NewsNation to tackle this exact anomaly. He bypassed the complex theories entirely. He flatly stated, "I think the true reason here is that anyone holding the answers is already guilty as sin." That heavy assessment comes straight from a veteran who spent his career hunting down violent federal offenders. The individuals holding the answers about Nancy Guthrie are not innocent bystanders debating whether or not to dial a hotline. They are right in the thick of it. They are entirely involved. Whoever holds the key to this mystery knows they cannot step into the light and grab the cash without burning themselves. Sloppy jobs simply do not stay quiet like this. A botched gig with a single loose end, like a bystander who caught a glimpse, or some random guy hearing a drunken confession, inevitably leads to a desperate phone call, maybe not on day 1, but by the 6th week, with over $1 million on the table, cracks show. Yet here, absolutely nothing surfaced. Moore continued his thought process, stressing heavily on NewsNation that anyone with secrets is likely guilty, adding that he is firmly no longer in the camp of this being a meticulously orchestrated grab for cash. He pointed specifically to the glaring lack of proof of life after the initial snatching. Both ransom deadlines on February 5th and February 9th came and went without a single verified message from her actual captors. Those supposed ultimatums floating around early in February were quickly pinned entirely on Kayla, a California grifter with zero ties to the actual kidnapping. Or they were generic media blasts the family could never verify. Nobody bothered showing she was breathing. Moore suggested we might face a totally different motive here. Ex-CNN crime analyst John Miller looked at this whole mess through a strictly tactical lens. Miller publicly warned everyone against assuming the trail went dead, explaining that the Bureau shifting bases from Tucson to Phoenix was calculated, not a surrender. However, he pointed out that failing to collect a ransom after blowing past 2 deadlines strongly suggests one of 2 grim realities. The crew either lost their nerve when the federal heat came down too hard, or a payout was never their true goal from the start. Either dark path leads straight back to the same chilling mystery. The looming question that has haunted this investigation without a clear answer for 6 agonizing weeks. Why did they specifically target Nancy Guthrie, barely 72 hours after the family released their desperate plea video? A California opportunist saw his chance, and his immediate actions prove exactly how vulnerable this family's data was to any creep with a simple internet connection. On February 4th, 2026, Savannah Guthrie and her siblings, Annie and Cameron, uploaded an emotional Instagram clip begging the captors for mercy. Staring directly into the camera lens, Savannah declared, "This is highly valuable to us and we will pay." Within mere hours, every major network was broadcasting it. It hit millions of screens, transforming the family's deep pockets and desperate vulnerability into global headline news. Enter Derek Calla. He is currently staring down a pair of heavy federal indictments. He was busted for firing off interstate ransom demands and weaponizing a phone to terrorize a grieving family. These are massive federal offenses stemming from his sick stunt right after the plea went viral. Kala fired up a burner app, a secondary platform that hands out untraceable digits to bypass normal carriers. And he used it to shoot off dark text messages to Nancy Guthrie and her husband, Tommaso Cion. They both stared down the exact same terrifying message. Did you secure the Bitcoin? We are waiting on our end for the transfer to clear. Roughly 3 minutes later, Kala actually dialed one of them directly. The line stayed open for 9 agonizing seconds. Federal agents tracked that fake number right back to the source email in a matter of hours after the complaint. The genius used his own personal Gmail, leaving his actual legal name permanently attached to the very burner number he assumed was a ghost. By the time the feds kicked down his door in Hawthorne, dead to rights, Kala boldly confessed to firing off those extortion texts. Per federal documents. He claimed he was just obsessively watching the manhunt unfold on live television. He swore he scraped their private details straight off the web. Apparently, he just wanted to test the waters to see who would bite. Police booked him, filed charges, and bailed him out for $20,000. Now, his gadgets are constantly watched. Federal agents pinned him down in mere hours. His online disguise was practically a joke, a standard Google email linked to a spoofed phone line he wrongly assumed was invisible. He actually had zero connection to the real kidnapping plot. He merely spotted a high-profile tragedy unfolding and ruthlessly decided to cash in on it. However, this wild stunt perfectly highlights a terrifying piece of the puzzle regarding the main suspect's motives. The sheer volume of public data available about this specific household. It proves just how fast any random person with internet access and bad intentions can piece it all together. Within 48 hours, the suspect gathered enough intimate background on the relatives to fire off highly customized threats to specific people. He leveraged their real names, personal phone numbers, and the crypto ransom details that were already splashed across the nightly news. He effortlessly dug up the private phone numbers for both Annie and Tommaso. Tommaso Cioni has spent his entire life intentionally avoiding the spotlight. He teaches science and biology at a Tucson prep school, a job he has held for over 10 years. He also slaps the bass for a local indie rock group named Early Black, complete with a digital music page. They have a full band bio and a documented tour history across 3 major cities. His professional networking page openly details his entire teaching career. His name pops up constantly in campus newsletters and staff directories. Plus, he tied the knot with Annie back in 2006. He is widely recognized as Nancy's son-in-law. Every single bit of this info is one click away, completely unhidden. Nancy Guthrie boasts a similarly visible career footprint. She is a published poet, author, and previously ran marketing for a massive Arizona University literary center. Her link to Savannah is undeniably public. Anyone trying to dig into this family's background has it incredibly easy. Skip the heavy spy work, just basic web searches can seamlessly map out the entire bloodline. They can trace daily habits, office addresses, and exactly how everyone fits into the larger family tree. Kala grabbed everything he wanted in just a few hours. A determined stalker with weeks to spare would inevitably unearth a goldmine. In federal hostage cases, demanding digital footprints is absolutely standard protocol. The burden of proof to secure these warrants drops significantly the second a formal hostage situation is declared by the government. Cops can easily grab search logs and user activities. They seize GPS coordinates and private messages from big tech and cellular networks. At the federal level, these requests move incredibly fast. The files they get back do not just show the day it happened. They reveal the entire timeline of shady preparations stretching back for months. It exposes every late-night search and tap made on personal gadgets, long before the suspect ever thought they were under the microscope. The mastermind behind dragging Nancy out of her house definitely had to stalk her extensively online first. They had to confirm her identity and lock down her residence. They also needed a solid grasp on her personal circumstances. They evaluated her physical health, her living arrangements, and her family ties just to orchestrate an ambush that required a firearm. They packed a bag, wore masks, grabbed gloves, and clearly knew about the security camera guarding her porch in advance. All that digital snooping creates a permanent footprint. Police are keeping quiet about whether they have matched those tracks to a name, but the breadcrumbs absolutely exist. Currently, federal agents are busy making plaster molds of the footprints discovered right next to the crime scene. This is simply the most glaringly obvious phase of a massive tactical response. Before the crime even happens, the schemer is just quietly collecting data, feeling entirely secure and practically undetected. The sheer amount of data floating around about this clan before January 31st, 2026, is massive. It literally serves as the blueprint for how a victim is chosen. Savannah has co-hosted the Today Show since 2012, dominating the anchor desk for over 13 years. Her paycheck is heavily dissected across the entire national television industry. Major gossip columns and respected magazines alike have pegged her annual income at a staggering $8 million. By combining property records and insider financial leaks, experts confidently place her total fortune around $40 million. You do not need security clearance. A quick web query works perfectly. Her bank accounts have been tabloid fodder and mainstream news topics for absolute decades. The day Nancy vanished was February 1st. That was in 2026. Journalists rushed out a deep dive on Savannah's wealth in under 24 hours. They knew immediately that her massive fortune was the master key to decoding the kidnapper's ransom logic. Let me hit you with a harsh reality check from an economic expert who bluntly stated, "Everybody knows Savannah Guthrie rakes in absolute fortunes, effortlessly clearing millions annually and potentially hitting the tens of millions. Because of her massive celebrity status, the danger of facing targeted threats skyrockets dramatically." This pundit definitely was not leaking confidential secrets. They were merely repeating economic data that newspapers had published for a long time. On the flip side, Nancy Guthrie was just an 84-year-old lady residing solo inside a house located throughout Tucson's quiet Catalina foothills community. She certainly possessed no massive personal fortune, according to any official records. The elderly woman was never an economic mark on her own. She merely served as a traceable link straight back to a famous daughter boasting massive riches. Megyn Kelly, the renowned broadcaster who deeply analyzed this entire ordeal, uncovered a chilling piece of information that makes the overall situation feel significantly more terrifying. Back in 2013, 13 years prior to this tragedy, morning television broadcasted a live feed right out of Nancy's personal sleep space. That television broadcast completely exposed the layout of her house, showing off the mattress setup alongside specific decorative touches. The host highlighted this issue online because initial extortion letters, which detectives actually investigated before dismissing them as scams or dead ends, allegedly featured intimate descriptions of the property, proving the author knew the layout. That specific insight was completely flawless. Any random person could sit down today and draft an incredibly believable extortion letter. Detailing the bedroom setup perfectly would be incredibly easy. Unless you realize those network cameras broadcasted it all back in 2013, my words would absolutely convince you that I personally stood within those walls. The broadcaster honestly wondered if detectives even realized those old television tapes were openly available. Real estate databases throughout Pima County remain completely open for anyone to freely browse. The victim's normal schedule, like her weekend worship habits and constant need for prescriptions, plus her entirely solitary lifestyle, were widely understood by neighbors and openly discussed right after the tragic vanishing occurred. Physical struggles and health issues got immediately spotlighted by the local sheriff during initial media briefings to stress how critical things were. Every single detail confirming her frailty was completely out there. Ex-intelligence officer Tracy Walder explicitly tackled the reason behind this crime while speaking on national television. The expert strongly suggested the perpetrator either held a deep grudge against Savannah or harbored some creepy infatuation with the star, leading them straight toward her vulnerable relatives. She elaborated, "This strike feels way too specific. Criminals do not simply stumble across this property and blindly choose to burglarize it. That specific viewpoint offers professional insight rather than proven facts. Authorities have refused to openly declare a reason, though the exact behavioral trend she highlighted, handpicking an innocent victim solely due to celebrity ties, perfectly aligns with all physical evidence, alongside everything police officials actually stated regarding how the predator zeroed in on the prey." Around February 10th, 2026, Federal authorities finally dropped terrifying security clips and photographs captured right off the elderly woman's own front porch lens. Those recordings revealed a disguised trespasser lurking around during the pitch-black morning of February 1st, fully covered, sporting winter clothes, while hauling around what experts eventually recognized as a 25-liter outdoor hiking bag. Investigators profiled the prowler as a man standing roughly 5 feet 9 to 5 feet 10 inches, sporting a medium frame plus dark facial hair peeking out from his face covering. That video also captured an intriguing action that immediately triggered intense psychological breakdowns from specialists. Prior to attempting anything, the shadowed intruder immediately reached out, trying to block the smart lens. After messing that up, he grabbed some leaves from a nearby pot. Attempting to hide the sensor, surprisingly, he never actually smashed the device. Tearing it down wasn't his style. The man simply blocked the view, granting himself some precious stealthy seconds. A retired federal agent with 25 years hunting killers and tracking kidnapped folks across the Denver area heavily scrutinized these exact clips during an online broadcast. His sharp insights crack through the basic visuals to reveal much more. Regarding the weapon, the intruder strapped a flimsy carrier right across his upper chest in a completely ridiculous and impractical spot. Any actual combat veteran or skilled soldier, seasoned gangster, or certified firearms expert would never ever rock a pistol like that. The expert pointed out that placing a sidearm there makes shooting straight with hand warmers on virtually impossible. He ultimately concluded that gun was simply a terrifying stage prop, serving basically as an intimidation tool rather than a deadly asset. This guy obviously understood that packing heat was mandatory for the job, yet completely missed the necessary training to wear it properly. As for approaching the house, the detective's sharpest critique focused heavily on whatever the shadowy figure attempted prior to breaching the lock. A chilling shadow exposes the predator's intent, the meticulous camera blocking, the deliberate stance. The Gruing theorized the intruder wasn't planning a break-in, but rather manipulating Nancy into unlocking her own front door. Gruing posed a haunting question to the public. Could this prowler be aggressively pounding the wood or hammering the ring device, deliberately coaxing Nancy outside while carefully hiding his masked face from view to avoid raising immediate alarms? The dark goal banked on her sheer confusion to swing the entrance wide open, a deeply sinister psychological read. The stalker clearly possessed inside intel, fully aware she was an isolated senior citizen who would definitely be home, navigating the exact blueprints of her estate to march straight toward the monitored entryway with absolute precision, and lugged a 25-liter bag to confront an 84-year-old target, packing enough heavy gear, restraints, or provisions for a long siege. Retired federal agent Jennifer Coffindaffer drew a parallel conclusion, seamlessly tying these behavioral breadcrumbs directly into a massive criminal framework. It completely reeks of a hired gun blindly following a blueprint they never actually drafted themselves. That masked figure caught on tape displays a bizarre mix of thorough gearing up combined with glaring amateur blunders. This perfectly paints a puppet blindly executing strict orders, instead of a criminal mastermind orchestrating the plot from scratch. Assuming this terrifying theory holds water, the phantom, lurking outside, isn't the actual brain behind this harrowing ordeal. The true puppet master is whoever ruthlessly handpicked that specific property. Authorities label this a directed operation, a sinister dynamic where the mastermind scheming the hit never dirties their own hands. A parallel nightmare unfolding in Scottsdale the very evening Nancy vanished perfectly illustrates this exact outsourced criminal structure. On January 31st, 2026, two California teens playing courier blitzed an Arizona residence, brutally ambushing two grown adults. They bound the terrified hostages with heavy tape and mercilessly battered them. Detectives claim their endgame was digital extortion, targeting victims rumored to hold roughly $66 million in virtual crypto assets. Authorities swiftly apprehended the juvenile suspects. During intense interrogations, the teens confessed they operated under the strict guidance of two shadowy handlers known only as Red and 8, keeping all their sinister chatter hidden on the encrypted Signal app. As we speak, those phantom bosses named Red and 8 remain completely off the grid, dodging both exposure and criminal charges. There is no rock-solid proof formally linking the Arizona home invasion to Nancy's terrifying vanishing act just yet. Authorities have completely refrained from formally linking these two chilling cases. Yet ex-federal investigator Coffindaffer openly highlighted their eerie structural mirrors on March 15, 2026. She wrote, "Those teenage goons were totally incompetent, but these horrifying attacks share undeniable parallels. And I absolutely guarantee the feds are probing if Red and 8 financed Nancy's snatching or other abduction plots. The identical blueprints are terrifying thugs mobilizing from the West Coast to zero in on ultra-wealthy marks for financial gain. Digital extortion requires elite cybercriminals quietly directing disposable street-level pawns from the shadows. Arizona investigators mapped out this exact boss-to-grunt hierarchy, proving these fake names purposely isolated the masterminds from the blood. Coffindaffer also dropped a massive bombshell that the mainstream news entirely failed to report. A massive digital alert hunting for Nancy popped up in Woodland Hills. Deep inside the sprawling Los Angeles metro grid, federal agents never drop public warnings by accident. Targeting that specific location was a highly calculated manhunt strategy. Dropping a massive tip line out west sparked the analysts' razor-sharp inquiry: why pinpoint the Golden State? Her hot take, I promise you, that while the media circus swarms Nancy's lawn, the real detective work is hunting demons elsewhere. West Coast ties completely saturate this mystery, considering Derek Kalla, the extortion fraudster, hails straight out of Hawthorne, California. The violent Arizona home invasion also utilized attackers from that coastal state. The Bureau erected their missing poster in Woodland Hills, while Kalla's burner digits traced right back to a California-registered email. While no badge officially confirms a unified conspiracy just yet, this blazing geographic trail has clearly triggered a massive federal response. In these outsourced hits, the creep ringing the doorbell is practically nothing but a disposable pawn in the game. The true monster is the mastermind who selected that specific doormat. The ghost, who harvested the data, isolated the prey, dissected their bank ledgers, and mapped the exact coordinates, then pulled the trigger on the hit, spending weeks before January 31st digging up the dirt needed to launch this nightmare. That digital footprint traced across hidden screens and burner profiles holds the terrifying truth of why Nancy was doomed. As this relentless investigation pushes into its 6th week, blood trails and shattered clues have forced elite criminal profilers into two deeply unsettling camps, yet both undeniably start at the exact same terrifying ground zero. Authorities completely refuse to validate either narrative on the record, yet both share a chilling common thread. Tracing these ideas to their roots leads investigators down the exact same path, a high-stakes extortion plot that catastrophically unraveled from the jump. Following this specific logic, the perpetrators snatched Nancy strictly to squeeze a massive payday out of her relatives, calculating the exact ransom based entirely on Savannah Guthrie's immense public wealth. Those early February extortion messages plastered across networks like TMZ, Coldeverdes, and DTV present two possible realities. Either the actual kidnappers wanted millions in cryptocurrency with ticking clocks, or shady opportunists like Kalla completely fabricated the threats to cash in on the initial frenzy. Former CNN law enforcement expert John Miller weighed in heavily on this exact dynamic. He pointed out the terrifying reality of the crime scene regardless of the original plan. That bloody doorstep proves the situation spiraled completely out of control in seconds. Snatching an 84-year-old disabled woman who desperately needs her daily pills right out of her bed at midnight is an absolute recipe for disaster. You are basically triggering a catastrophic health crisis right on the spot. When all communication instantly vanished after the February 9th cutoff, Miller drew a rather dark conclusion. The attackers likely realized they were trapped in a fatal blunder, entirely unable to walk away without exposing the horrific felonies they had already pulled off. On the flip side, veteran reporter and podcaster Megyn Kelly aggressively champions a completely different, much darker hypothesis regarding the ordeal. Broadcasting to her vast audience, she stated plainly, "I am absolutely betting this entire nightmare was an assassination cleverly disguised as a kidnapping. If you forced me to wager, I firmly believe someone desperately needed her dead. So they breached that house. They snatched her up, eliminated her permanently. And this whole hostage narrative was entirely fabricated. It boils down to a brutal homicide and a highly calculated smokescreen. Her reasoning relies heavily on the total radio silence following the expired ultimatums, strongly suggesting those extortion letters were merely clever decoys. They were likely designed to mask a deeply personal, non-financial motive behind the illusion of a standard cash grab. Yet both angles rely on one crucial pillar: whoever did this meticulously stalked and chose Nancy Guthrie. Completely ruling out a random, spur-of-the-moment break-in, this was absolutely no opportunistic street crime. And tracing both concepts back to square one reveals a glaring truth. Everything points directly back to one inescapable, widely known reality. The perpetrators clearly understood her critical role within a highly visible dynasty, exploiting the clan's massive wealth, elite network, and glaring security blind spots. Interestingly enough, a whole slew of retired federal operatives reached this exact same conclusion completely on their own. Tracy Walder points to the surgically precise strike, while Steve Moore flags the deafening silence, ignoring the massive bounty and the total lack of real extortion follow-ups. Meanwhile, Jennifer Coffindaffer highlights the incredibly organized, military-esque execution of the raid itself. Johnny Grusing zeroes in on psychological clues, noticing the clear hallmarks of a hired hitman rather than a criminal mastermind. By analyzing the exact same open-source intel, these experts all zeroed in on the identical suspect profile, something the local sheriff claims he spotted immediately. Frankly, the physical clues gave authorities plenty of justification to suspect this from the jump, making Steve Moore's ominous News Nation broadcast truly unforgettable. He cautioned that if extortion wasn't the goal, the twisted motivations behind this attack guarantee they will strike again, representing a stark psychological profile rather than empty fear-mongering. Those are the heavy words of a seasoned detective outlining a deeply ingrained, highly specific compulsion to harm. It reveals a vicious cycle that definitely won't just vanish into thin air just because their initial plot hit a snag. Fast forward to March 2026, and authorities have officially verified several active leads, most notably a complex, blended genetic sample. Tech swabbed this mystery DNA straight from the residence, and it absolutely does not match the victim or any of her regular visitors. Top brass admitted the biological trace is a massive jumble of data. It likely holds genetic markers from several different perps, making lab analysis a total nightmare. So detectives are aggressively utilizing advanced ancestral tracking. This cutting-edge method is brutally slow, yet their familial reference pools expand exponentially overnight. Every single serious criminal booked nationwide feeds fresh data into CODIS, the Federal Genetic Index, meaning a golden hit could realistically trigger a decade down the line. However, task force members confidently predict a much faster breakthrough, especially regarding that discarded glove discovered tossed in the weeds roughly 2 miles from the property. Forensics successfully extracted genetic material from the fabric, a massive win corroborated by high-level insiders speaking directly to ABC News. Visually, this crucial piece of evidence perfectly aligns with the gear sported by the shadowy figure caught lurking on the porch lens. Deputies rushed the item to the state crime lab, instantly uploading the findings into the National Registry while simultaneously scrutinizing the extra surveillance grabs. Media outlets confirmed that sleuths only managed to salvage static preview frames rather than continuous recording feeds. These crucial snaps came from security sensors monitoring the rear perimeter, explicitly showing unknown individuals prowling the grounds in the critical window right before the kidnapping. Police swear those chilling photos hold absolutely zero red flags, yet detectives keep digging frantically. Take that shattered electrical panel, for instance. Pima County deputies officially admit they are probing a busted utility box sitting just down the street from Nancy's residence. Authorities refuse to reveal exactly how crucial or severe that destruction truly is. That California billboard in Woodland Hills remains standing, begging the massive Los Angeles crowd for clues. Detectives are aggressively hunting. This mystery is far from dead. Crucial digital forensics and physical evidence are still pending. The bounty sits untouched, awaiting justice. The sheriff is definitely hiding a massive secret from the general public. Got a solid lead regarding Nancy Guthrie vanishing? Dial the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or ring Pima County deputies at 520-351490 Yet one massive detail stands out. A hidden tactical pattern from that evening gets completely ignored by mainstream media. The creepy manner this predator moved long before actually striking is absolutely chilling. Leave your wildest theories below, since we are breaking down the exact same clues. Honestly, the most brilliant breakthroughs often emerge from viewers paying close attention from the start. This case delivers a powerful warning about the hidden risks of the modern world. Information is no longer just knowledge, it is power. And in the wrong hands, it can become a weapon. Nancy Guthrie's story reminds us how easily ordinary details, family ties, daily routines, even public success can be pieced together into something dangerous. What we share online, what others can discover about us, and how visible our lives become can quietly shape risks we never see coming. Awareness is no longer optional, it is protection. It also teaches us that evil is often calculated, not chaotic. Harm doesn't always happen by chance, it can be planned, studied, and executed with chilling precision. That's why staying alert, protecting personal boundaries, and taking digital privacy seriously matters more than ever. But beyond fear, this story calls for empathy and responsibility. Behind every headline is a real person, a real family, and real pain. We must resist turning tragedy into entertainment and instead choose compassion, respect, and truth. In the end, knowledge must be used wisely, trust must be guarded carefully, and humanity must always come first.